Action.
All right, go ahead.
Probe microphone, speech mapping, as well as directional microphone verification and noise reduction.
All right.
Yes, so Lauren will be our patient for today, so she's going to sit here, and your ear mold is for which ear? Right, left?
My left.
Left ear. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to speech map Lauren as our patient using a Phonak hearing aid. All right, so I'm going to go into Phonak Target software. Now, we'll let it get all set up here. Because she has normal hearing, I'm going to use the prescription setting of NAL-NL2 because it is exactly half as loud as NAL-NL1 and it should be fairly comfortable. And it will not calculate settings that would give her a hearing loss. Alright, so I'm going to create a new fitting because I need to change the internal settings to the NAL-NL2. And so I need to switch ears because we're going to fit her to a left ear because that's what her mold is for. Gotta reconnect.
Everyone's videotaping now.
Yes. I know, I was looking forward to that because the first group, none of the Phonak computers were working when they were here. So we did a modified version of this. Alright, so when I go in, it wants to verify what type of mold and acoustics you have. So her mold is a full shell unvented. The venting is what it's looking for. So it's going to ask me how am I coupling it. I have it coupled with a standard tube. And then the venting, her ear mold's not vented, so I'm going to say that it's occluded. And then it's going to recalculate. So you're going to get these little orange arrows. And then the target here will turn orange, meaning that it wants to reset your settings. So I'm going to do that. It'll recalculate. And then I'm going to go into the fitting tab and then go to basic tuning. It defaults the settings to Phonak's proprietary settings. I'm going to switch that in the drop down to NAL-NL2. And then once again it will reset. Alright, so now I'm going to go with Phonak. It wants us to do a feedback test first. So let me get her set up for actual programming. I have to cut her ear mold. So I'm going to fit her. So this will be trimmed so you can attach it now to any hearing aid. All I did was just score that so I know where to cut when I take it off.
Oh, that's smart. I don't know why I never did that before.
What, just score it?
Yeah.
You can mark on it with a Sharpie or a pen if you want to know where you're going to cut. Whichever way you think is easier. Alright. So now I've got her connected. I need to insert probe mic. So we're using the left side. It's already calibrated. So the probe mics have to be measured for her ear canal. So I'm actually going to measure off of her ear mold. So her ear mold, you want the end of the probe mic to be 2 to 5 millimeters past the end of the canal. So you lay your probe mic where you want it to extend. Then you're going to move the black indicator down towards the heel of the ear mold. The heel of the ear mold sits in the intertragal notch, and that's where you want this black indicator to be on your patient's ear. So I'm going to move that down. Oops, lost my connection. Alright, so now I have the end of it where I want it. So I'm going to attach that to my probe mic housing. Alright, and of course, as we always do, we would do otoscopy first, but today I'm going to trust that Lauren's ears are clear.
Ask Aubrey, she usually checks them for me.
Okay, and then I want that black indicator right in the intertragal notch there. And then of course we have to reconnect our hearing aid here.
No, you don't even take a look.
Yeah, so right.
Oh, how you would normally.
Yeah, how you would normally do it. You're just measuring it a different way.
Okay.
Alright. So this has some settings in it that are not calculated yet for her, but I'm going to keep it muted just because she's got normal hearing. Oops. So Sorry, Lauren. I can see your head moving there. Sorry.
I always cringe with that.
Well, I pushed it in a little bit further because the ear molds
Yeah.
moved the probe mic. Is that okay? Are you
Yeah,
feeling
yeah,
a
it's
pinch or
fine now.
anything? Okay. It just went in a little bit further.
Yeah.
But the closer it is to the TM, the better your output readings are because it is more in position. Okay, so now into our test settings for the VeriFit. So I'm going to go under the test menu. We want to do an on-ear measurement because we're going to fit the hearing aid to her. We're going to speech map it. And we're going to go in under audiometry and we're going to say that we want targets for NAL, NL2. She's an adult patient. We measured her hearing with inserts and foam. And because she's an adult, we're going to stick with the NAL2 RACD average. She's only getting one hearing aid, so I'm not going to set it for binaural. If we said it was binaural, it would reduce the settings by 3 to 5 dB to account for binaural summation. So the patient will perceive the settings to be louder if it's being calculated for both ears. So right now we're going to reduce that. So that means because I selected only one ear, your settings will be 3 to 5 dB higher because you're only wearing one ear. So I'm going to give a very basic gradual hearing loss so that this won't be too loud for her because she's got normal hearing. So I'm just starting at normal and just going down by 10 dB. You'll get a copy of this for your assignment. Alright, so it doesn't matter if we measured her LDLs because NAL's not really going to use that for the calculations. It doesn't really matter to them. So when we look at this, our floor is her thresholds and our ceiling are the LDLs. These are average predicted based on her thresholds. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to unmute my hearing aid. Okay, so got ourselves connected here, get moving. Alright, so Phonak is assuming that its calculations will match target. So I'm going to run test number 1.
A carrot is a long reddish-yellow vegetable which has several thin leaves on a long stem and which belongs to the parsley family. Carrots are grown all over the world in gardens and in the wild in the fields.
Okay, we're doing really well in the low frequencies, possibly because it's an unvented ear mold. If we were matching to sensation level, we could afford to bring all of that down. So because we're matching to target, the targets are higher. So my targets for the lows, you want that average green line to cross through the targets. So we're a little bit low in the high frequencies here. So we could go in and start adjusting, but it's going to sound weird to you because your hearing is normal. So I'm just going to leave it a little bit below what we want. So we're matching to a target. If you wanted to match to sensation level, which is what we typically do, all you have to do is say you don't want to see a target. It'll remove that. And then you're going to take that middle line, the average, and make sure at a 55 dB input it is at threshold. When you measure 65 dB, you want 65 dB to roughly be halfway in between the threshold and the LDLs. Some people like to look at the threshold and say, I want it 20 dB above the threshold. So you can either eyeball it either way. Now, if you want it halfway, sometimes that will be too loud for the patient. So it really will depend on the patient's subjective opinion of how this sounds. So you can do it either way.
Where do you want it for soft?
For soft, if you're matching to sensation level, you want the soft inputs to be at threshold. So that line would be down here.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
I can try and turn it down to get there, but chances are her ear mold acoustics won't allow it. So I'm going to run it one more time. I lowered it. So now our numbers in terms of output on the screen are negative. So I've got the channels essentially off.
A carrot is a long reddish-yellow vegetable which has several thin leaves on a long stem and which belongs to the parsley family. Carrots are grown all over the world in gardens and in the wild in the field.
So even though the channels are off, it's her ear mold because it's occluded. It's not allowing any change in the low frequencies. It's just too much closure of the ear canal, so we're not getting any changes there. So now, let's pretend that our patient says, this is wonderful, we're moving on. We're going to do a directional microphone verification. So I'm going to go into my program options here so that I can change the microphone settings. So to do a directional microphone test, you go back to your test menus. You're going to go on your measurements and then select directional. And for this test, you have to have a rear speaker. So where you guys are standing is where I need to position the rear speaker. So let's have Lauren scoot a little closer to the table. Alright, so we have to estimate, with the VeriFit for proper calibration, your patient can be 18 to 36 inches from the speaker. So she's probably about the 3 feet mark. So that means when I connect the directional rear microphone, I need that to be also 3 feet from the back of her head. So the directional mic plug-in is right here. So we're going to estimate where this is possibly 3 feet behind her head, and it also has to be adjusted to be at head level. So you want them to be in line. So you plug it into the back of the VeriFit. Okay, so on the back of the VeriFit, just tilt this forward, you will see on the back, there's a man's head. He has a speaker in front and a speaker behind his head. You're going to plug this into the port representing the speaker behind his head.
It's good quality, huh?
Alright, so now I'm going to go in. Right now, for her current setting, she's in an omnidirectional microphone, but I would like to know what the directional microphone looks like. So I have to force the hearing aid to go to a directional microphone. So I put it in for Phonak into speech and noise, which automatically defaults us to the directional setting. So now I'm going to run the test, and I'm going to put it at average conversation, 60 or 65, with a 6 dB signal to noise ratio.
là của xã hội sẽ được học around thay ống mà bên chủ cặp long thì lại thu được any the stop the power.
And then just like in a test box, she says, I think, 7 seconds of about 13 different languages. So she's never saying a full sentence, she just says different things. But you're looking at the same separation you see in a test box. You want the front speaker, which will be labeled as F, and B for the back speaker to see the same separation you would in a test box. So that actually looks pretty good. So when you're looking at it here, it'll say F and B for speaker placement corresponding to the tracings on the screen. So that's not looking too bad. It does confirm that the hearing aid is working. So our directional microphone is wired correctly and it reacted appropriately to the spatial and spectral separated signals.
It's on weak settings.
This is actually defaulted to ultra zoom, so this would be the highest setting that Phonak could provide to us. So you would play around to see what the other settings look like. But at the highest setting, that is a good response. So now, I want to see if the noise reduction is working. So just to verify noise reduction by itself, I'm going to force it back to an omnidirectional microphone and then start adjusting the noise control settings by themselves. So in this VeriFit, you go back to the test menu, on ear measurements, and then select noise reduction. So in the noise reduction, you do not need the rear speaker, so you can unplug that, because there will be nothing presented from behind her. Okay, so now we're going to use air conditioner again. And I'm going to put it at 65 again.
It's blocking that noise, right? The noise is coming out right now.
It's trying, but we're talking, so it's actually recording us. And I think that's the best we're going to get, 3 dB.
That's on weak.
Now, I kept it, yes, at a weak setting. So let's see how far we can go. So the way Phonak has theirs set up, it's defaulting to weak. But it won't let me go any higher until I force it to go into a different setting. I have to choose comfort and noise so that my microphone strategy stays omni and it allows me more adjustment of the noise settings. So now we're going to put it at moderate and see what this looks like. I'm going to use the same stimulus. Alright, that looked better. We got a doubling of the noise reduction in that case. Lauren, were you able to hear it changing?
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice it made you more comfortable?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. So then we can also see what it looks like at the strongest setting. Just run it one more time at the same level.